The champagne glass shatters against the marble floor 3 feet from where I'm standing, and I don't even flinch anymore. "Clean it up," Vanessa hisses, her diamond bracelet catching the chandelier light as she waves dismissively toward the spreading pool of expensive alcohol. "And try not to embarrass us further tonight, Lila. We have important guests." I'm already moving, already reaching for the small towel I keep tucked in my apron pocket, already making myself invisible the way I've learned to do over the past 3 years. The Harrington estate glitters around me like a museum I'm not supposed to touch, all white marble and gold accents and the kind of wealth that makes my monthly salary look like pocket change. "I apologize, Mrs. Harrington," I murmur, kneeling in my black uniform dress to collect the larger pieces of crystal. The champagne soaks through my stockings, cold and sticky, but I keep my face carefully neutral. Vanessa doesn't respond. She's already turned back to her conversation with 3 other women, their laughter sharp and performative as they discuss vacation homes in the Hamptons. I'm furniture to them. Less than furniture. The thought tastes bitter, but I swallow it down with everything else I've learned to swallow since my parents died and left me with nothing but medical bills and a half-finished college degree I'll probably never complete. I gather the broken glass carefully, piece by piece, my fingers steady despite the tremor of humiliation running through my chest. 3 years. 3 years of cleaning up after people who look through me like I'm made of air. 3 years of working doubles at the Harrington household just to afford my closet-sized apartment in Queens and keep the debt collectors at bay. If you're loving this story already, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. "Lila!" Vanessa's voice cracks across the room like a whip. "The Castellano family will be arriving any moment. Make yourself presentable and ensure the West Parlour is perfect. Perfect. Do you understand?" My stomach clenches. The Castellano family. Even I've heard whispers about them, one of the most powerful families in New York, with connections that run deeper than anyone wants to acknowledge publicly. Old money, dangerous money. "Yes, Mom." I dispose of the glass, smooth down my uniform, and check my reflection in one of the countless mirrors lining the hallway. 26 years old, and I look exhausted. My dark brown hair is pulled back in a neat bun, my olive skin looks pale under the harsh lighting, and my hazel eyes carry shadows that no amount of concealer can hide. I look like what I am, a woman barely holding it together. The doorbell chimes, a melodious sound that seems to echo through the entire mansion. I smooth my hands over my apron one final time and position myself near the entrance to the West Parlour, ready to serve, ready to be invisible, ready to endure whatever fresh humiliation tonight brings. What I'm not ready for is him. Dante Castellano walks into the Harrington estate like he owns it, and maybe in some metaphorical way, he does. Everyone in New York knows the Castellano name commands respect, fear, and absolute loyalty. But knowing something intellectually and witnessing it physically are 2 completely different experiences. He's tall, at least 6'3", with the kind of build that suggests violence contained beneath expensive tailoring. His black suit probably costs more than I make in a year, fitted perfectly to broad shoulders and a narrow waist. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from stone, all sharp angles and strong features, but it's his eyes that pin me in place as he scans the room with predatory precision. Grey, cold, calculating. Those eyes pass over me for exactly half a second and I feel it like a physical touch, assessing, cataloguing, dismissing. I'm staff. I'm nothing. "Mr. Castellano!" Richard Harrington's voice booms with false joviality as he strides forward, hand extended. "What an honor to have you in our home." Dante's handshake is brief, economical. "Harrington." His voice is deep, controlled, the kind of voice that doesn't need to be raised to command attention. "I appreciate your hospitality." There are others with him, 2 men in similar dark suits who position themselves near the entrance with the stillness of trained predators, and a woman in a blood-red dress who looks like she could slit your throat with her smile. But my attention keeps dragging back to Dante Castellano himself, to the way he moves through space like danger wrapped in civility. Please, come in. Come in. Richard gestures toward the west parlour where I've spent the last hour ensuring every surface gleams. We have much to discuss about the Manhattan Development Project. Vanessa appears at her husband's side, her smile perfectly plastic. Mr. Castellano, we're absolutely thrilled to finally meet you. Your reputation precedes you. I'm sure it does, Dante replies, and there's something almost amused in his tone, something that suggests he knows exactly what his reputation entails and finds it useful. I press myself against the wall as the group moves past me into the parlour, trying to become part of the expensive wallpaper. But as Dante passes, his eyes flicker to me again, just for a moment. This time the look lingers half a second longer than before, and I feel my breath catch in my throat for reasons I can't quite name. Then he's past me, settling into one of the leather chairs with the casual confidence of a man who's never questioned his right to take up space in the world. Champagne, Mr. Castellano. Vanessa's voice is sickeningly sweet. Whiskey. Neat. Of course. Lila. Vanessa snaps her fingers in my direction without even looking at me. Mr. Castellano requires whiskey, the Macallan 25 obviously, and do try not to spill it. The barb hits exactly where it's intended to, a reminder of the champagne glass I broke last month, which I didn't actually break, but which I took the blame for when Vanessa's actual favourite daughter knocked it over during a drunken tantrum. But I learned a long time ago that the truth doesn't matter when you're powerless. Right away, Ma'am. I move to the bar cart, my hands steady as I pour 2 fingers of whiskey that costs more than my rent into a crystal tumbler. I can feel eyes on my back, whose I'm not sure, as I perform this simple task that somehow feels weighted with significance. When I turn around, Dante Castellano is watching me, not watching the way Richard watches the stock market ticker, or the way Vanessa watches for mistakes to criticize. He's watching me the way a chess player watches the board, like I'm a piece whose value he's trying to calculate. I cross the room, the whiskey balanced perfectly on a small silver tray, my steps silent on the plush carpet. When I reach his chair, I lower the tray slightly, offering him the glass with practiced deference. Your whiskey, sir. His fingers brush mine as he takes the glass, and the contact sends an unexpected jolt of electricity up my arm. Those grey eyes lock onto mine for the first time, really seeing me, and I feel like I'm being X-rayed, dissected, understood in ways that should be impossible from a 3-second interaction. Thank you, he says, and his voice is quieter now, almost intimate, like he's speaking only to me despite the roomful of people. I nod, step back, assume my position against the wall where good help belongs. Now, about the waterfront properties, Richard begins, launching into what I'm sure will be a lengthy discussion of real estate and money and power plays I'll never fully understand. I tune it out, the way I've learned to tune out most of the conversations that happen around me. I'm a ghost in this house, present but not participating, watching lives unfold that have nothing to do with my own. Except I keep catching Dante Castellano looking at me. It happens 3 times in the first 15 minutes. Quick glances, his eyes cutting away from Richard's animated gestures to find me against the wall, then returning to the conversation without missing a beat. Each time it happens, my heart rate kicks up slightly, and I hate that I'm responding to his attention. He's dangerous. Everything about him screams danger, from the barely contained violence in his controlled movements to the way his associates hover at the edges of the room like trained attack dogs. I should be repelled. Instead, I'm fascinated. The city council, as you know, has been somewhat resistant, Richard is saying, his face slightly flushed from his own whiskey. But with your family's influence, I'm confident we can navigate any bureaucratic obstacles. Obstacles can be removed, Dante replies, his tone perfectly neutral in a way that makes the words sound like a threat. The question is whether this partnership serves both our interests. Oh, absolutely, the profit margins alone. I'm not concerned about profit margins, Harrington. I'm concerned about loyalty. The temperature in the room seems to drop several degrees. Richard's laugh sounds nervous, strained. Of course, you have my complete loyalty, Mr. Castellano. I assure you— Do I? Dante leans forward slightly, his grey eyes sharp. Because I've heard rumours that you've been in discussions with the Petrov family as well. The silence that follows is suffocating. Vanessa's face goes pale. Richard's hand trembles slightly as he sets down his glass. That was merely exploratory, Richard stammers. Nothing concrete, I assure you. My commitment is to our partnership. Your commitment, Dante interrupts, his voice still perfectly calm, appears to be to whoever offers you the best deal. That's not partnership, Harrington. That's opportunism. I shouldn't be listening this closely. I should make myself even more invisible, should probably leave the room entirely. But I'm frozen against the wall, watching this power play unfold like a snake unhinging its jaw. I can explain. I'm sure you can. Dante stands smoothly and everyone in the room tenses. Even his own people seem to snap to higher alert. But I didn't come here tonight for explanations. I came here to make my position clear. He crosses the room with predatory grace, stopping in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the Harringtons' manicured grounds. The city glitters in the distance, a carpet of lights that represents the empire men like Dante Castellano control from the shadows. You see, Richard, he continues, his back still to the room, I don't do business with people I can't trust. And right now, I'm not sure I can trust you. Mr. Castellano, please. Dante turns and the look on his face stops Richard mid-sentence. It's not anger exactly. It's something colder, more absolute. It's the look of a man who's already made his decision and is simply waiting for everyone else to catch up. However, Dante says, his gaze sweeping the room before landing inexplicably on me. I'm willing to be convinced under the right circumstances. My pulse hammers in my throat. Why is he looking at me? I'm nothing to do with this conversation, nothing to do with real estate deals and mafia politics and whatever dangerous game is being played in this opulent room. Anything, Richard says desperately. Name your terms. Dante's smile is cold, calculated. I'll be in touch. And just like that, the meeting is over. Dante signals to his people with barely a gesture, and they move toward the door in a coordinated dance that speaks to years of working together. The woman in the red dress pauses to whisper something to Dante, her hand resting possessively on his arm, but he shakes his head slightly, and she moves away with a disappointed pout. I should stay against the wall. I should let them leave without drawing any more attention to myself. Instead, as Dante passes by my position, I find myself speaking. Your glass, sir. Would you like me to take it? It's a stupid thing to say. He's barely touched the whiskey. But something compels me to speak, to remind him I exist. To— What? I don't even know. Dante stops, turns, looks at me with those penetrating grey eyes. What's your name? The question catches me off guard. Richard and Vanessa are standing awkwardly near the parlour entrance, clearly wanting this uncomfortable evening to end, clearly confused about why Dante Castellano is bothering to speak to their help. Lila, sir. Lila Moreau. Lila. He tests my name like he's tasting wine. How long have you worked for the Harringtons? 3 years, sir. And do you enjoy working here? The question is absurd. Enjoy. Working for people who treat me like animated furniture, who humiliate me daily, who pay me barely enough to survive while they throw away food that could feed a family for a week. But I can't say that. Not with Richard and Vanessa listening. Not when my job, as soul-crushing as it is the only thing standing between me and homelessness. The Harringtons have been very generous employers, I manage, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. Something flickers in Dante's eyes. Amusement. Recognition. He knows I'm lying. Somehow he knows. Generous, he repeats, and the word sounds like mockery. He glances at Richard and Vanessa, then back to me. Tell me, Lila, what would you say is the most important quality in an employer? This is a test. I don't know what kind of test, but I can feel the weight of it, the way my answer matters in some way I can't begin to comprehend. Respect, I hear myself say, and Vanessa makes a small disapproving sound in her throat. An employer should respect their employees. Respect, Dante echoes. He's standing close enough now that I can smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that makes my head swim. And do you feel respected here? Mr. Castellano, Richard interjects, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. I'm not sure what this is about, but perhaps... I'm asking your employee a question, Harrington. I'm sure you don't object to me speaking with members of your household. It's not really a question. Richard's jaw works, but he nods stiffly. Vanessa looks like she might actually explode from indignation. Dante returns his attention to me, waiting for my answer. The smart thing would be to lie again, to play the grateful servant, to protect the illusion that keeps me employed. But something about the way Dante is looking at me, really looking at me, seeing me as a person rather than a piece of furniture, makes honesty spill out before I can stop it. No, I whisper, no, I don't feel respected here. Vanessa gasps. Richard's face turns an alarming shade of red. I've just torpedoed my own job, destroyed 3 years of biting my tongue and swallowing my pride. And for what? To tell the truth to a man I don't know and will never see again? But Dante Castellano smiles. It's not a warm smile, it's the smile of a predator who's just confirmed something he suspected. The smile of a chess player who's seen an unexpected move that makes the game more interesting. Honesty, he says softly. How refreshing. He reaches into his jacket pocket and produces a business card. Thick, expensive cardstock with minimal information. Just a name, a phone number, and an address in Manhattan. If you ever decide you want to work for someone who values honesty over obedience, he says, pressing the card into my palm. Call that number. My fingers close around the card automatically, my brain struggling to process what's happening. Mr. Castellano, Richard starts, his voice shaking with barely suppressed rage. I must insist. You're in no position to insist anything, Harrington. Dante's voice cuts through the room like a blade. Consider our potential partnership on hold, pending further evaluation. I'll be in touch when I've decided whether you're worth the investment. He nods to his associates and they move toward the door. The woman in red gives me a calculating look as she passes, like she's trying to figure out why I merit any attention from her boss. At the doorway, Dante pauses one final time, his eyes finding mine across the room. Think about it, Lila Moreau. I have a feeling you're stronger than you realize. Then he's gone, taking his dangerous presence and unsettling attention with him, leaving behind a room that feels somehow emptier despite the 3 of us still standing in it. For exactly 5 seconds, nobody moves, nobody speaks. Then Vanessa explodes. How dare you? She rounds on me, her face twisted with rage. How dare you speak to our guest that way? Do you have any idea what you've done? I didn't mean... You've embarrassed us. You've jeopardized Richard's business relationship. She's so angry she's sputtering, unable to find words adequate to express her fury. Vanessa, Richard says, but there's no comfort in his tone. He looks at me with undisguised hatred. You're fired. The words should devastate me. 3 years of employment gone. My apartment, my bills, my precarious hold on stability, all evaporating because I told the truth to a man who asked me a direct question. But all I can think about is the card burning in my palm. The card with Dante Castellano's information. The card that represents possibility, danger, change. Clean out your things and be gone within the hour, Vanessa adds, her voice dripping with vindictive satisfaction. And don't expect a reference. After what you've done, you'll be lucky to find work anywhere in this city. I should beg. I should apologize, grovel. Do whatever it takes to keep this horrible job because at least it's a job. At least it pays the bills. Instead, I straighten my spine, meeting Vanessa's glare with a steadiness I didn't know I possessed. I understand, Mrs. Harrington. I'll collect my belongings immediately. I turn and walk out of the West Parlour with my head held high, even though my hands are shaking, even though I have no idea how I'm going to make rent next month, even though I've just destroyed my life for the sake of 30 seconds of honesty. But the card is still in my hand, and as I climb the back stairs to the small staff room where I keep my purse and coat, I allow myself to look at it properly for the first time. Dante Castellano, a phone number, an address, and underneath in elegant script, everyone deserves respect, even those society has taught us to overlook. I stare at those words for a long time, my finger tracing the embossed letters. This is insane. He's a criminal, probably. Definitely dangerous. The smart thing would be to throw this card away and spend tomorrow pounding the pavement for a new domestic position, maybe somewhere in Brooklyn where the Harringtons' reach doesn't extend. The smart thing. But I've been doing the smart thing for 3 years, and where has it gotten me? Broke, exhausted, invisible, and now unemployed. I slip the card into my purse, collect my few belongings, a spare uniform, some personal items I've kept in my locker, a photo of my parents taken before the accident that killed them, and walk out of the Harrington estate for the last time. The night air is cold against my face. It's nearly midnight, and the streets of this wealthy neighbourhood are quiet, lined with mansions where people sleep soundly behind gates and security systems, insulated from the struggles of ordinary people like me. My phone buzzes. A text from my landlord reminding me that rent is due in 5 days. Another text from the hospital where my mother spent her final weeks. A bill I'll probably never be able to pay in full. I stand on the sidewalk, clutching my bag, staring at the sleeping mansions, and make a decision. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe it's dangerous. Maybe I'll regret it for whatever short time I have left before this choice destroys me completely. But I pull out the card, pull out my phone, and before I can second-guess myself, I type out a message to the number Dante Castellano gave me. Mr. Castellano, this is Lila Moreau. You said to call if I wanted to work for someone who values honesty. I'd like to discuss that opportunity, if it's still available. I hit send before I can change my mind. Then I start walking toward the subway station, my breath forming clouds in the October air, my future suddenly uncertain in a way that feels terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. My phone buzzes almost immediately. I stop under a streetlight, my heart hammering, and look at the response. Address on the card, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't be late. DC. Are you still with me? Drop a heart in the comments if you're as hooked as I am right now. I read the message 3 times, then look up at the night sky visible. Between the buildings, at the stars barely visible through the light pollution of New York City. My old life ended tonight. Whatever comes next, at least it will be different. At least I'll be seen. I pocket my phone and continue walking, and with each step away from the Harrington estate, I feel something inside me beginning to unfurl. Something that feels almost like hope. Or maybe just like the dangerous thrill of free fall, that moment between jumping and landing when anything feels possible. Either way, I'm in motion now, and there's no going back. The subway rattles beneath me as I make my way back to Queens, the fluorescent lights harsh against my tired eyes. The car is mostly empty at this hour. Just me, a sleeping homeless man, and 2 teenagers trying to look tougher than they are. I stare at my reflection in the dark window, barely recognizing the woman looking back at me. When did I become this person? This hollow-eyed ghost who accepts humiliation as a daily routine, who's forgotten what it feels like to be treated like a human being. Dante Castellano saw that tonight. Somehow, in a glance, he understood what I've been too exhausted to acknowledge. That I'm drowning slowly, that the life I'm living isn't sustainable, that something has to change before I disappear entirely. The question is whether trading the Harringtons' cruelty for whatever Dante Castellano represents is an improvement or just a different kind of danger. My phone buzzes again, another bill collector. I silence it and lean my head against the subway window, watching Queens slide by in the darkness. Tomorrow morning, I'll walk into whatever world exists at that Manhattan address. Tomorrow morning, I'll find out what Dante Castellano wants from me, what role I might play in the dangerous game he's clearly involved in. Tomorrow morning, everything changes, but tonight I'm just a woman on a subway clutching a business card like it's a winning lottery ticket, hoping that the truth I told won't be the truth that destroys me. The train pulls into my stop. I exit into the cold night, walking the 4 blocks to my apartment building with my keys gripped between my fingers like a weapon. This neighborhood isn't dangerous exactly, but it's not safe either, and I've learned to be careful. My apartment is a studio that charitably could be called cozy and realistically should be called claustrophobic. 400 square feet of peeling paint, questionable plumbing, and radiator heat I can barely afford. But it's mine, for now. I drop my bag, kick off my shoes, and stand in the center of my tiny kingdom, looking at the life I've built from nothing. It's not much, but I've fought for every square inch of it. And tomorrow, I might lose it all. Or I might gain something I can't even imagine yet. I pull out Dante's card one more time, running my finger over the embossed letters. Everyone deserves respect, even those society has taught us to overlook. I hope you mean that, I whisper to the empty room, because I'm about to bet everything I have that you do. I set my alarm for 7 a.m., giving myself enough time to look presentable for whatever interview or test or judgment awaits me at that Manhattan address. Then I lie down on my narrow bed, still fully clothed, and stare at the ceiling where the paint is starting to peel in the corner. Sleep doesn't come for a long time. When it finally does, I dream of grey eyes and dangerous smiles and the feeling of falling without knowing where I'll land. The morning comes too quickly and not fast enough. I stand under the weak spray of my shower, trying to wash away 3 years of the Harrington estate, 3 years of bending and scraping and making myself small. The hot water runs out after exactly 4 minutes. It always does. And I finish rinsing my hair in the cold spray, gasping but awake. I dress carefully in the only professional outfit I own that isn't a uniform. Black slacks that are slightly too loose now because I've lost weight from skipping meals. A white blouse I've ironed so many times the fabric is starting to thin, and a grey blazer I found at a thrift store in Brooklyn. It's not much, but it's dignified. It's armor. I leave my apartment at 8:30, catching the subway back into Manhattan, back into the world of people who belong in skyscrapers and penthouses and leather-upholstered offices. The card in my purse feels like it's burning through the fabric, a constant reminder of the leap I'm about to take. The address leads me to a building in Tribeca, all steel and glass and the kind of modern architecture that screams money. The lobby is pristine, marble floors reflecting the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. A security desk sits in the center, manned by 2 guards who look more like military operatives than typical building security. I approach on shaking legs, clutching my purse like a lifeline. I have a 10 a.m. appointment with Dante Castellano, I say, proud that my voice doesn't tremble. One guard checks his computer, then nods to the other. They're both examining me closely, cataloguing my cheap clothes and nervous energy, probably wondering what someone like me is doing in a building like this. 30th floor. Elevator on the left. You'll be met when you arrive. The elevator is mirrored on all sides, and I watch multiple versions of myself ascend through the building, each reflection looking equally terrified and determined. My heart is beating so hard I can hear it in my ears, and my palms are sweating despite the cool air. The doors open on the 30th floor, and I step into a reception area that makes the Harrington mansion look modest. Everything is black, white, and chrome, modern and intimidating, and clearly designed to make visitors feel small. A woman sits behind a curved reception desk, her hair pulled back in a severe bun, her suit probably worth more than my entire wardrobe. She looks up as I approach, her expression professionally neutral but her eyes calculating. "Lila Moreau?" she asks before I can speak. "Yes." "Mr. Castellano is expecting you. Follow me, please." She rises with fluid grace and leads me down a hallway lined with abstract art that probably costs more than most people make in a lifetime. We pass several doors, all closed, before stopping at a set of double doors at the end of the corridor. The woman knocks once, then opens the door without waiting for a response. "Ms. Moreau, sir." "Send her in." That voice, deep and controlled and somehow more intimidating when it's not attached to a physical presence. I take a breath, square my shoulders and walk through the doorway into whatever comes next. Dante Castellano's office is massive, with windows overlooking the city like he owns every building in sight. Maybe he does. The morning light streams through the glass, catching on the sleek modern furniture, the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, the desk that looks like it's made of volcanic rock. And behind that desk, Dante himself. He's just as imposing in daylight as he was last night, maybe more so. His suit today is charcoal grey, his dark hair perfectly styled, his grey eyes locked onto me the moment I enter the room. He's on a phone call, but he gestures to one of the leather chairs facing his desk, indicating I should sit. I lower myself into the chair, trying not to look as overwhelmed as I feel, trying to project a confidence I absolutely don't possess. "No," Dante says into the phone, his tone final. "Tell Russo that if he can't deliver by Friday, we'll find someone who can. I don't care about his excuses." A pause. "Good. Keep me updated." He ends the call and sets the phone face down on his desk, then turns his full attention to me. The intensity of that gaze makes me want to squirm, but I force myself to sit still to meet his eyes even though everything in me wants to look away. "You came," he says, and there's something almost satisfied in his tone, like he's won a bet. "You invited me. I offered you an opportunity. I wasn't certain you'd be brave enough to take it. I'm not sure brave is the right word. Desperate, maybe." His mouth quirks slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. Honesty again. Good. He leans back in his chair, steepling his fingers, studying me like I'm a puzzle he's trying to solve. The silence stretches between us and I fight the urge to fill it with nervous chatter. "Do you know who I am, Lila?" he finally asks. "You're Dante Castellano. You're powerful, connected, dangerous, probably. Dangerous, yes." He says it matter-of-factly like we're discussing the weather. "And does that frighten you?" I want to lie. I want to play it cool, pretend I'm not terrified of this man and everything he represents. But he asked for honesty last night, and something tells me that's the only currency that will work in this room. "Yes," I admit. "It frightens me. But staying where I was frightened me too. At least this is a different kind of fear." Dante leans forward, his eyes never leaving mine. "Tell me about your parents." The question catches me off guard. "What? Your parents? Tell me about them." I don't know what this has to do with anything, but something in his tone suggests this isn't optional. "They died 3 years ago," I say slowly. "Car accident. A drunk driver. They were on their way home from my college graduation. And you were close to them." It's not a question, but I answer anyway. "Yes. They were everything to me. My mum was a nurse. My dad was a mechanic. They worked so hard to give me opportunities they never had, to pay for my education, to make sure I had a better life than they did." My throat tightens. "They died the same day I got my degree. I never even got to show them my diploma." Dante's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. "And after they died?" "Medical bills, funeral costs, my mother's hospital stay before she passed. I had to drop out of graduate school, took the first job I could find that offered regular hours. Ended up with the Harringtons. 3 years of being treated like you don't exist. 3 years of surviving," I correct. I did what I had to do. Until last night. Until last night, I agree. Dante stands and my breath catches. He's even more imposing when he's in motion, all controlled power and predatory grace. He moves to the windows, looking out over the city, his hands clasped behind his back. I built this empire from nothing, he says, his voice quieter now, almost reflective. My father was murdered when I was 19, left me in charge of a fractured organization, enemies on all sides, no one thinking I had what it took to survive. They saw a boy trying to play at being a man. He turns back to me and the look in his eyes is fierce, dangerous, absolutely certain. I proved them all wrong, not through violence, though that was sometimes necessary, but through understanding what they couldn't. That real power comes from seeing what others overlook, from finding value where everyone else sees weakness. I'm starting to understand where this is going, and my pulse quickens. Last night at the Harringtons, Dante continues, moving back toward his desk but not sitting. I watched you. I saw how they treated you, how you held yourself together despite the humiliation, how you served them with dignity even when they gave you none in return. And when I asked you a simple question, you told me the truth despite knowing it would cost you your job. He leans against his desk, arms crossed, looking down at me with an intensity that makes my skin prickle. Do you know how rare that is? Real honesty? Most people in my world would rather lie to my face than risk losing my favor. You risked everything for 30 seconds of truth. I don't know if that makes me honest or just stupid, I say, and I'm surprised to hear a hint of humor in my voice. Dante's smile is quick, genuine. Perhaps both. But I need people around me I can trust. People who won't tell me what I want to hear but what I need to hear. People who have enough spine to stand up and say no when necessary. And you think I'm that person? I think you have the potential to be. He moves to a cabinet against the wall, extracting 2 glasses and a bottle of water, not alcohol, I notice. He pours for both of us, hands me a glass, then settles back behind his desk. Which brings us to why you're here. I sip the water, my mouth suddenly dry. Why am I here? I have a proposition for you. A job, if you want to call it that. But it's not like anything you've done before. I assumed it wouldn't involve cleaning up champagne spills. Another flash of that almost smile. No. No champagne spills. He opens a drawer in his desk, removes a document, and slides it across to me. I pick it up with shaking hands, scanning the words, trying to make sense of what I'm reading. It's a contract. An employment contract. The salary listed makes my eyes widen. It's more than I made in a year at the Harringtons. Far more. What exactly would I be doing for this amount of money? I ask carefully. You'd be working for me directly. Personal assistant of sorts, though that doesn't quite capture it. You'd manage aspects of my schedule, interact with various people in my organization, attend meetings with me, help me navigate situations that require discretion. Discretion meaning what exactly? Meaning you'll see and hear things that can never be repeated. Meaning you'll be privy to information that could get you killed if you shared it with the wrong people. Meaning your loyalty would have to be absolute. There it is. The truth beneath the attractive salary and prestigious title. I'd be stepping into a world of criminals and violence and danger, becoming complicit in whatever dark business Dante Castellano conducts from this pristine office. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal, Dante adds, as if reading my mind. But you will be adjacent to things that exist in legal grey areas. You'll need to be comfortable with that. I set down my water glass, my hands trembling slightly. And if I say no, then you walk out of here, and we never speak again. I'll even write you a check for $5,000 as thanks for your time. You can use it to tide you over while you find new employment. $5,000. More money than I've seen in one place since before my parents died. Enough to pay rent for months, to catch up on bills, to breathe. But Dante's watching me with those penetrating eyes, and I realize this is another test. He's offering me an easy out, a way to walk away with cash and no strings attached. But he doesn't think I'll take it. He thinks I'm going to jump. Can I think about it? I hear myself ask. You have 60 seconds. What? 60 seconds. He checks his watch. Starting now. This is insane. He's asking me to decide my entire future in 60 seconds, to choose between safety and danger, between poverty and prosperity, between the life I know and a life I can't even imagine. I'm getting emotional over here. Are you feeling this tension? Let me know in the comments. I look at the contract again, at the salary that could change everything, at the lines about confidentiality and loyalty and the NDA I'd have to sign. I think about my tiny apartment, about the bills piling up, about the future of more jobs like the Harringtons where I'm invisible and powerless and slowly dying inside. I think about the way Dante looked at me last night, really looked at me, saw me. I think about my parents, about how they wanted more for me than just survival, about how they'd want me to be brave, to take risks, to live instead of just existing. 30 seconds left. What happens if I screw up, I ask? Then we part ways. What if I want to leave? You can leave any time, but you take nothing with you except what you came with, and you never speak about what you learned here. 15 seconds. Why me? I demand. There must be 100 people more qualified. Because you told the truth when it mattered, Dante interrupts. Because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Because I think you're stronger than you know, and I want to see if I'm right. 5 seconds. I look into those grey eyes one more time, searching for something: doubt, deception, danger. I find all three, but I also find something else: possibility. Where do I sign? Dante's smile is triumphant. He hands me a pen, heavy, expensive, probably costs more than my monthly rent, and I sign my name at the bottom of the contract before I can second-guess myself. Lila Moreau. My signature looks small and uncertain on the elegant paper. But it's done. Dante takes the contract, adds his own signature with a flourish, then presses a button on his desk phone. Carmela, please prepare the onboarding materials for Ms. Moreau. Standard protocol but expedited. She starts today. Today. Not Monday. Not next week. Today. I should tell you, Dante says, standing and extending his hand, that a lot of people are going to question this decision. They're going to wonder why I hired someone with no experience in this world, someone who was working as domestic help 24 hours ago. They're going to test you, underestimate you, try to prove you don't belong here. I stand as well, taking his hand. His grip is firm, warm, sure. And what should I do when that happens? Prove them wrong. He holds my hand a moment longer than necessary, his eyes locked on mine. Show them what I already see. That you're exactly where you belong. He releases my hand and I feel the absence of that contact like a physical loss. Carmela will get you set up with everything you need: security clearance, access cards, computer login. You'll shadow me for the first few weeks, learn how things work, meet the key players in my organization. Your first real test comes Friday night. What happens Friday night? A gathering. Business associates, rivals, allies, enemies, all pretending to be civilized over dinner and drinks. I need someone beside me who can read the room, who can catch things others might miss. Someone I can trust to watch my back. The weight of what I've just agreed to settles over me like a heavy coat. I'm not just taking a job. I'm entering a world where watching someone's back might mean the difference between life and death. I won't let you down, I say. And I mean it. I know. He moves toward the door, opening it to reveal Carmela waiting outside. One more thing, Lila. I pause, looking back at him. Welcome to the family. The word family hangs in the air between us, weighted with meanings I'm only beginning to understand. This isn't just a job. This is an initiation, a transformation. This is the moment everything changes. Carmela leads me away, her heels clicking efficiently on the polished floor, and I follow in a daze, my mind racing to catch up with what just happened. I have a job. A real job. with a salary that means I can pay my bills, keep my apartment, maybe even save a little, with a boss who sees me as a person instead of a servant, with a boss who's dangerous and powerful and definitely hiding secrets that could destroy me if I'm not careful. But for the first time in 3 years, I feel something other than exhaustion and despair. I feel alive. The rest of the morning passes in a blur of paperwork and orientations and security protocols. Carmela is efficient and professional, explaining everything quickly but thoroughly, never betraying any opinion about my sudden appearance in Dante's inner circle. By noon, I have an access card with my photo, a company laptop, a phone that's probably worth more than every piece of technology I've ever owned combined, and a desk in a small office adjacent to Dante's. Mr. Castellano typically works through lunch, Carmela informs me, but he expects you to eat. There's a dining area on the 29th floor for senior staff. Your access card will get you in. Thank you. She pauses at the door, and for the first time, something other than professional neutrality crosses her face. A word of advice, Ms. Moreau? Please, keep your eyes open and your mouth shut until you understand how things work here. There are people in this organization who won't be happy about your hiring. Don't give them ammunition. I'll remember that. Carmela nods and leaves, and I'm alone in my new office, staring at the unfamiliar space, trying to process the fact that this morning I was unemployed and desperate, and now I'm sitting in a Manhattan high-rise with a salary that could change my life, if I survive long enough to collect it. My new phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. I open it cautiously. Meeting in my office in 15 minutes. Time to start your education. DC. I have 15 minutes to pull myself together, to transform from Lila Moreau, the desperate ex-housemaid, into Lila Moreau, the competent personal assistant to one of New York's most dangerous men. No pressure. I use the bathroom down the hall. Even the bathrooms in this place are intimidating, all marble and gold fixtures. And check my reflection. I look tired, scared, determined. I look like I'm trying to belong somewhere I have no business being, but I also look like someone who's done being invisible. I straighten my shoulders, lift my chin, and walk back to my new office with as much confidence as I can manufacture. 13 minutes later, I knock on Dante's door. Enter. He's at his desk reviewing documents, but he looks up when I come in and gestures to the chair I sat in earlier. Ready to begin? He asks. Ready. Good, because we're starting with the deep end. He slides a photograph across the desk. It shows a man in his 50s, well-dressed, with cold eyes and a calculating smile. This is Markus Volkov. He runs the Russian syndicate that controls most of the drug trafficking through the ports. He's been encroaching on territory that belongs to my organization, and he needs to be reminded of boundaries. I stare at the photograph, my mouth dry. What does that have to do with me? Friday night. Volkov will be at the gathering I mentioned. I need you to observe him. Watch who he talks to, how he reacts to certain topics, whether he shows any signs of planning something. You'll report everything back to me. You want me to spy on him. I want you to observe. There's a difference. And if he catches me watching, he won't. Because you'll be doing what everyone else is doing. Mingling, making conversation, appearing to enjoy yourself. The difference is you'll actually be paying attention. Dante stands, moving around his desk to perch on the edge of it, closer to me now, close enough that I can smell that expensive cologne again, see the flecks of silver in his grey eyes. This is what I need from you, Lila. Not just administrative work. I need your eyes, your observations, your honesty about what you see. Most of the people in my organization have been doing this so long they've stopped really seeing. They make assumptions. They miss details. And you think I won't? I think you spent 3 years being invisible, which means you spent 3 years watching, observing, noticing things others missed because they assumed you didn't matter. That's a skill, and it's valuable. He's right. I did spend 3 years watching, cataloguing every mood shift and power play in the Harrington household, learning to anticipate needs before they were spoken, to disappear before I could be blamed for something. I became invisible by becoming hyper-vigilant. And now Dante wants to use that. I'll do my best, I say. I know you will. He returns to his chair, but his eyes stay on me. One more thing. Tonight, you're going shopping. Shopping? For the gathering Friday. You'll need appropriate attire. Carmela has the details. She'll take you to a boutique that caters to our needs. Whatever you require, charge it to the company account. I think about my threadbare wardrobe, my single pair of dress shoes with the worn heel. Mr. Castellano. Dante, he interrupts. When we're alone, you call me Dante. The intimacy of that feels dangerous, but I nod. Dante, that's very generous, but it's not generosity, it's necessity. You represent me now. That means you need to look the part. Carmela will make sure you have everything you need. There's no room for argument in his tone. This is happening whether I'm comfortable with it or not. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen what Friday night entails. He picks up his phone, checking something. We have a meeting in 20 minutes with my financial team. You'll sit in, observe, take notes if you want. Don't speak unless spoken to. Just watch and learn. Understood. And Lila? He looks up, catching my eyes. Breathe. You're doing fine. The reassurance shouldn't mean as much as it does, but warmth spreads through my chest anyway. He sees that I'm nervous. He sees that I'm trying. He sees me. The meeting with the financial team is exactly as intimidating as I feared. 6 people, 5 men and 1 woman, sit around a conference table discussing things I only half understand. Offshore accounts, investment strategies, risk assessment. They all nod respectfully when Dante enters, their conversations cutting off mid-sentence. But when I follow him in, when I take the seat he indicates next to his at the head of the table, the looks I get range from confused to hostile. This is Lila Moreau, Dante says simply. She'll be working with me directly. Treat her accordingly. No explanation, no justification, just a statement of fact, delivered in a tone that doesn't invite questions. The meeting proceeds, and I do as instructed. I observe. I watch how people react to Dante's questions, who makes eye contact and who looks away, whose hands tighten on their pens when certain topics come up. The woman, introduced as Sophia Reyes, Chief Financial Officer, watches me throughout the meeting with undisguised curiosity. She's in her early 40s, sharply dressed, with intelligent dark eyes that miss nothing. When the meeting ends and people file out, she lingers, waiting until it's just the 3 of us in the conference room. Interesting hire, she says to Dante, but her eyes are on me. I thought so, Dante replies. No offence, Ms. Moreau, but you seem a bit green for this environment. It's not quite an insult, but it's close. I meet her gaze steadily. I'm a fast learner. You'll need to be, Sophia turns to Dante. People are going to talk, you know. Questions will be asked. Let them talk. Let them ask. Dante's tone is final. Ms. Moreau has my confidence. That should be sufficient. Sophia's smile is knowing. Should be. We'll see if it is. She nods to both of us. Welcome aboard, Ms. Moreau. I look forward to seeing what you're capable of. She leaves and I release a breath I didn't know I was holding. She doesn't trust me, I say. She doesn't trust anyone. That's why she's good at her job. Dante begins gathering papers from the table. But she's also right. People are going to question your presence here. You need to be prepared for that. How do I prepare for that? By proving you belong. By being better than they expect. By not giving them any reason to dismiss you. He pauses, looking at me directly. And by never apologizing for being here. You earned this position. Remember that. I earned it by being honest for 30 seconds, by telling the truth when asked a direct question. It seems like such a small thing to have changed my entire life. But as I follow Dante back to our adjoining offices, as I settle into my new desk and stare at the skyline visible through my window, I realize that maybe that's exactly the point. Maybe in a world built on lies and posturing and careful manipulations, simple honesty is the most valuable currency of all. The afternoon continues with more meetings, more introductions, more names and faces I tried desperately to remember. By 5 p.m. my head is spinning and my feet hurt in my cheap shoes, and I feel like I've lived an entire year in a single day. Carmela appears at my door exactly at 5:15. "Mr. Castellano said I should take you shopping," she announces. "Are you ready?" "No." "Yes." The boutique is in Soho, small and exclusive, the kind of place that doesn't display price tags because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. The owner, a woman named Margot with an accent I can't quite place, greets Carmela like an old friend and looks me up and down with a practiced eye. "For Friday's gathering?" she asks. "Yes. She'll need at least 3 options plus shoes, accessories, appropriate undergarments." I feel like a doll being dressed, and I hate it. But I also can't deny the thrill when Margot starts pulling dresses from the racks, beautiful things in silk and velvet and fabrics I can't name, in colours that make my breath catch. "Try these," Margot commands, pointing me toward a changing room that's larger than my apartment's bathroom. I try on 6 dresses. Each one fits like it was made for me, and I realise Margot must have a gift for sizing people up at a glance. The first 3 are beautiful but somehow not right. Too young or too severe or just not me. The 4th dress stops me in my tracks. It's deep emerald green, fitted through the bodice and flowing from the waist, with a neckline that's modest but elegant, and sleeves that end just above my elbows. It's sophisticated without being stuffy, sexy without being obvious. When I step out to show Carmela, her professional mask slips for just a moment. "That's the one," she says. Margot agrees, already pulling shoes and a clutch that perfectly complement the dress. "You have good bone structure," she tells me, tilting my chin to examine my face. "Don't hide it. And these—" she hands me a pair of delicate gold earrings. "Will catch the light when you move." By the time we're done, I have not just the green dress, but 2 other outfits for office-appropriate events. 3 pairs of shoes, more accessories than I've owned in my entire life, and enough undergarments to last me a month. "Send the invoice to the usual account," Carmela instructs Margot, "and then we're leaving, my new purchases being delivered directly to my apartment building tomorrow." In the car, because apparently I rate a car service now, Carmela finally speaks to me like I'm a person rather than an assignment. "You did well today," she says. "Thank you." Mr. Castellano doesn't give his trust easily. The fact that he's given it to you means something. Don't waste it. "I won't." She looks out the window at the city sliding past. "He's a good man. A hard man, but a good one. He demands loyalty, but he gives it too. Remember that when things get difficult." "Will they?" "Get difficult?" Carmela's smile is sad. "They always do in this world, Ms. Moreau. The question is whether you're strong enough to endure it." The car drops me at my apartment building, and I climb the stairs to my studio, feeling like I'm in some kind of fever dream. This morning I woke up unemployed. Tonight I'm returning home with a job that pays more than I ever imagined, with a closet full of designer clothes being delivered tomorrow, with access to a world I barely understand, with a dangerous man who sees me as valuable. I unlock my door, drop my purse on the counter and sink onto my bed, staring at the cracked ceiling that suddenly feels like it belongs to someone else's life. My phone buzzes. A text from Dante. "You survived day 1. Well done. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, we go deeper. DC." I read the message 3 times, then typed back, "Thank you for this opportunity. I won't disappoint you." His response comes immediately. "I know. Sleep well, Lila." I set the phone down and close my eyes, exhaustion crashing over me like a wave. But beneath the exhaustion, there's something else, something that feels like excitement, like possibility, like the first day of a life I never dared to imagine. I think about my parents, about how proud they'd be to see me working in that gleaming tower, wearing those beautiful clothes, being treated with respect. I think about the danger I'm probably walking into, the compromises I'll have to make, the lines I might have to cross. Wait until you see what happens next. This story is about to get even more intense. I think about grey eyes and quiet confidence and a voice that said, "Welcome to the family," like it meant something more than just employment. And as I drift off to sleep in my tiny apartment for what might be one of the last times before everything changes irrevocably, I realize I'm not afraid anymore. I'm ready. Whatever comes next, whatever tests Dante Castellano has planned, whatever dangers lurk in the shadows of his world, I'm ready to face them. Because for the first time in 3 years, I'm not just surviving, I'm becoming something more. The next 3 days pass in a whirlwind of learning and observation. Dante walks me through the basics of his organization, never explicitly stating what exactly they do, but giving me enough context to understand the scope of his power. There are legitimate businesses, real estate developments, export operations, investment firms. And then there are the ventures that exist in those grey areas he mentioned, where legality becomes flexible and loyalty becomes currency. I meet more people. Alessandro, Dante's head of security, who looks at me like I'm a potential liability he hasn't figured out how to neutralize yet. Marco and Vincent, enforcers who handle problems with efficient brutality that they don't bother to hide. And Sophia, the woman in the red dress from the Harrington estate, who turns out to be Dante's second-in-command and who clearly resents my sudden proximity to their boss. "You're going to get yourself killed," she tells me Wednesday afternoon, cornering me in the break room on the 29th floor. "You don't know these people. You don't understand how they think. One wrong word at Friday's gathering, and you'll end up at the bottom of the Hudson." "Then I won't say the wrong word," I reply, meeting her challenging stare. Sophia laughs, but there's no humour in it. "You think it's that simple? These people eat girls like you for breakfast. They'll smell your weakness, your fear, and they'll exploit it until there's nothing left." "Maybe," I acknowledge, "or maybe they'll underestimate me. Either way, I'm here. Dante thinks I can do this. That's good enough for me." Something flickers in Sophia's eyes. Respect, maybe, or just a recalculation of threat level. "You've got guts. I'll give you that. Let's see if you've got anything else." She leaves and I realize my hands are shaking, but they're not shaking with fear exactly. They're shaking with adrenaline, with the electric feeling of standing my ground against someone who expected me to fold. I'm learning the rules of this world, and rule number 1 is, never show weakness. Thursday evening, Dante calls me into his office just as I'm preparing to leave for the day. "Sit," he says, and I do, settling into the now familiar chair across from his desk. He's been working late every night this week, his sleeves rolled up, his tie loosened, looking more human and somehow more dangerous than he does in his usual polished armour. "Tomorrow night is important," he begins. "I need to make sure you understand what you're walking into." I'm ready. "Are you?" He leans back, studying me. "Because the people at this gathering, they're not like the Harringtons. They're not petty and cruel for the sake of it. They're calculating, dangerous. They kill for business reasons without emotion, without hesitation. And they'll be watching you because you're an unknown quantity, because your presence beside me raises questions they'll want answers to." What questions? Are you my lover, my spy? A weakness they can exploit? They'll test you, Lila, verbally, socially, and if they think they can get away with it, physically. My stomach tightens. And what should I do? Stay close to me. Don't engage with anyone alone. Don't accept drinks from anyone but the servers. Don't answer questions about your background or how you came to work for me. Be polite but distant. Observe but don't react. And if something feels wrong, anything at all, find me immediately. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to keep you alive. He stands, moving to the window, looking out at the city lights. I've brought you into my world, Lila. That makes you my responsibility. If something happens to you because of me, because I misjudged your readiness or your strength. He trails off, and for the first time, I see something vulnerable in his expression. I stand, moving to join him at the window, maintaining a respectful distance but close enough to speak softly. I knew what I was signing up for when I took this job, I say. Maybe not all the details, but I knew it would be dangerous. I'm not doing this blindly, Dante. I'm doing it because for the first time in years, I feel like I have a chance at something better. And I'm willing to risk danger for that. He turns to look at me, and in the dim office lighting, his eyes are softer than I've ever seen them. You remind me of someone, he says quietly. Who? My sister. She had your courage, your determination to prove she was more than what people saw on the surface. His jaw tightens. She died because of this world, because I couldn't protect her from the people who saw her as a way to hurt me. The revelation stuns me. Dante, I'm so sorry. It was 10 years ago. I've learned to live with it, but I won't. He stops, seems to gather himself. I won't make the same mistake twice, which is why I'm going to ask you one final time. Are you absolutely certain you want to be at that gathering tomorrow? I think about my apartment, about the bills, about the life of invisibility I left behind. I think about the way Dante looks at me, really sees me, values me in a way no one has in years. I think about the possibility of building something meaningful, even if it's dangerous, even if it costs me. I'm certain. He nods slowly, accepting my answer. Then we prepare you properly. He moves back to his desk, opens a drawer, and removes a small black box. This is a panic button. Wear it tomorrow night concealed. If you press it, every one of my people in that building will know you're in trouble. They'll come for you. He hands me the box, and I open it to find a delicate gold bracelet with what looks like a decorative charm. The charm is the button, nearly impossible to identify as such. It's beautiful, I say, slipping it onto my wrist. It's insurance. I hope you never need to use it. So do I. We stand there in his office, the city glittering below us, and something passes between us that feels like more than just employer and employee, more than just protector and protected. It feels like connection, understanding, the beginning of trust. Go home, Dante finally says. Get some sleep. Tomorrow night, you're going to see the real world I operate in, the beautiful veneer and the ugliness beneath. After tomorrow, there's no going back. I know. And you're still willing to move forward? Yes. He smiles then, a real smile that transforms his face from dangerous to devastating. Then, tomorrow night, Lila Moreau. You're going to show them all exactly what you're made of. I leave his office with the panic button on my wrist and a feeling in my chest that's part fear and part exhilaration. Tomorrow night I'll be tested. Tomorrow night I'll discover whether I'm truly strong enough to survive in Dante Castellano's world. But tonight, I go home to my apartment that suddenly feels temporary, to the life that already seems like it belongs to someone else, and I prepare myself for the transformation that comes with the morning. Tomorrow, I become someone new. Tomorrow, I stop being the invisible girl and start being the woman who stands beside one of New York's most dangerous men without flinching. Tomorrow I prove that Dante Castellano's faith in me wasn't misplaced. And if I'm honest with myself, in the quiet of my apartment with no one to hear, I admit that I want to prove it to him more than anything. Not because he's my boss, but because somewhere in the past 4 days, against all logic and self-preservation, I've started to care what he thinks of me, and that might be the most dangerous thing of all. Friday morning arrives cold and bright, the kind of October day that reminds you winter is coming. I dress carefully in one of my new office outfits, a tailored navy suit that makes me look competent and professional, and take the subway to Tribeca feeling like I'm heading toward a cliff I'm about to jump off. The day passes in a haze of normal work. Meetings, emails, phone calls I screen for Dante. Every task feels weighted with significance because I know tonight will change everything. At 3 p.m, Dante dismisses me early. Go home, prepare. The car will pick you up at 7. I leave the office, the afternoon stretching ahead of me like a countdown. In my apartment, I take a long shower, carefully apply makeup the way the YouTube tutorials I watched last night taught me, and slip into the emerald green dress that transforms me into someone I barely recognize. The woman in the mirror looks confident, sophisticated, powerful. She looks like she belongs in Dante Castellano's world. I clasp the panic button bracelet around my wrist and tell myself I won't need it. The car arrives, exactly at 7. The driver, a man named Thomas who's been with Dante for years according to Carmela, nods respectfully when I emerge from my building. "You look beautiful, Miss Moreau," he says simply. "Thank you, Thomas." The drive to the venue takes 30 minutes through rush hour traffic. We pull up to a building in Midtown, all glass and steel and understated wealth. A doorman in a pristine uniform opens my door, and I step out onto the sidewalk, my heels clicking on the pavement, my heart racing in my chest. Did this story touch your heart? Let me know in the comments. And if you've made it this far, you're absolutely going to want to see how this ends. Dante is waiting in the lobby, and when he sees me, something flashes in his eyes that makes my breath catch. "Lila," he says, his voice low, "you look stunning." "Thank you." I smooth my hands over the dress nervously. "I clean up okay." "More than okay." He offers his arm and I take it, feeling the solid strength of him beneath the expensive fabric of his suit. "Remember everything I told you. Stay close. Observe. Trust your instincts." "I will." We enter the elevator together, and as it rises toward the penthouse level, I feel the weight of what's about to happen settling over me like a cloak. This is it. The real test. The moment I prove I can survive in this world or discover I can't. The elevator doors open and we step into a world of wealth and danger disguised as elegance. The penthouse is stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art on every wall, servers circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres, and at least 50 people in formal attire who all turn to look when Dante Castellano makes his entrance. "Showtime," Dante murmurs, his hand warm on the small of my back as he guides me into the room. And just like that, I'm in the deep end, swimming with sharks, hoping I'm strong enough not to drown. The first hour passes in a blur of introductions and careful conversations. Dante introduces me simply as Lila Moreau, my associate, offering no further explanation and shutting down any attempts to probe deeper with a look. I meet businessmen and politicians, socialites and criminals, all mingling together in this strange ecosystem where money and power erase the lines between legal and illegal. I smile politely, speak minimally, and watch everything with the careful attention Dante trained me for. And I identify Marcus Volkov immediately when he enters the room. He's exactly as he appeared in the photograph, cold eyes, calculating smile, moving through the crowd like a predator scenting prey. He's accompanied by 2 men who are clearly bodyguards and a woman young enough to be his daughter who he treats like property. Dante's hand tightens slightly on my waist when he sees Volkov. "There he is," I murmur. "You have a good eye." Dante's voice is quiet, meant only for me. "Stay alert. He'll approach us eventually. When he does, let me do the talking, but watch his reactions." 20 minutes later, Volkov makes his move, crossing the room with his false smile firmly in place. "Castellano," he says, his accent thick. "What a pleasure to see you here." "Volkov?" Dante's tone is perfectly neutral. "Enjoying the evening?" "Very much. The host has excellent taste." Volkov's eyes slide to me, assessing, categorizing. "And who is this lovely creature?" Every muscle in my body tenses, but I keep my expression politely pleasant. "Lila Moreau," Dante says. "My associate." "Associate?" Volkov's smile widens. "How very modern of you, Castellano. In my organization, we don't typically allow women in positions of power. Too emotional, too weak." The insult is deliberate, designed to provoke a reaction. I feel Dante's hand tighten on my waist again, a silent warning to stay calm. "That's an interesting perspective," I say evenly. Though I'd argue that underestimating half the population is more of a weakness than strength. Volkov's eyes narrow. Bold words, little girl. Let's hope you can back them up. I'm sure Ms. Moreau can handle herself, Dante interjects smoothly. Now, if you'll excuse us. Actually, I have a proposal. Volkov's smile turns predatory. A wager, if you will, to test this theory about women in our world. Dante's entire body goes still. What kind of wager? Simple. Your little associate spends 1 week working for me. If she survives, if she proves she has what it takes to operate in our world without your protection, I'll withdraw from the territory disputes we've been having. The ports are yours. The room around us has gone quiet. People are watching now, sensing drama, drawn to conflict like moths to flame. And if she doesn't survive, Dante's voice is deadly calm, then you admit I was right. Women are too weak for this business, and you give me a 20% stake in your Manhattan development. The numbers involved make my head spin. The Manhattan development is worth hundreds of millions, maybe billions. Volkov is betting big because he's certain I'll fail. No, Dante says flatly. Wait. The word comes out of my mouth before I can stop it. Everyone turns to look at me and I feel the weight of their attention like a physical pressure. I accept the wager. Dante's head whips toward me. Lila. $5 million, I continue, my voice steady despite the terror flooding my system. If I survive the week and prove myself, Volkov pays you $5 million on top of withdrawing from the ports. If I fail, you get nothing and he gets his stake in the development. The room erupts in whispers. Volkov's eyes glitter with interest. You think you're worth $5 million? He asks, and there's genuine curiosity beneath the mockery. I think your certainty that I'll fail is worth $5 million. Put your money where your mouth is. Dante's hand on my waist has become almost painful, but he says nothing, waiting to see how this plays out. Volkov studies Volkov, me for a long moment, then laughs. A harsh barking sound. I like you, little girl. You have spirit, even if you don't have sense. Fine. 5 million. But know this. I won't make it easy for you. I'll test you in every way imaginable. Most people break in the first 3 days. Then I guess I'm not most people. Volkov extends his hand. Do we have an agreement, Castellano? I can feel Dante's fury radiating off him in waves. I've just committed him to a bet he never wanted, risked myself in ways I don't fully understand, and possibly destroyed any trust he had in me. But I also see something else in his face when I glance up at him. Calculation, reassessment, a spark of something that might be pride. We have an agreement, Dante says, shaking Volkov's hand with barely controlled violence. But if you harm her, Volkov, if she comes to any permanent damage during this week, our agreement becomes void, and you'll discover exactly how creative I can become when properly motivated. She'll be returned intact, Volkov assures him. Broken, perhaps. Defeated, certainly, but physically unharmed. He releases Dante's hand and turns to me. 1 week, starting Monday morning. My driver will collect you at your apartment. Bring comfortable clothes and a strong stomach. You're going to need both. Then he's gone, disappearing back into the crowd with his entourage, leaving me standing beside Dante Castellano, who has gone absolutely rigid beside me. What? He says, his voice dangerously quiet. Did you just do? I proved I belong here, I reply, lifting my chin. You told me never to show weakness. Refusing that bet would have been weakness. Taking it shows strength. Taking it shows you have no idea what you've agreed to. Then teach me. I turn to face him fully, meeting his furious gaze with determination. I'm only partially faking. You have the weekend to prepare me for whatever Volkov throws at me. Use it. We're creating a scene now. People are watching, whispering, wondering if Dante Castellano is about to publicly discipline his new associate or simply snap her neck right here in the penthouse. Instead, he pulls me close, his mouth near my ear, his voice pitched so only I can hear. You just bet my empire on your survival, on your strength, On your ability to withstand things I haven't prepared you for. No, I whisper back. I bet on myself. There's a difference. He pulls back, looking at me with an expression I can't quite read. Anger, yes, but also something else. Something that might be admiration. We're leaving, he announces. Now. He guides me toward the elevator with a hand that's firm but not painful, and I go willingly, aware of every eye in the room tracking our exit. In the elevator alone, he rounds on me. Do you have any idea what you've done? Volkov is going to do everything in his power to break you. He'll push you beyond any limit you think you have. He'll test your physical endurance, your mental fortitude, your moral boundaries. And he'll do it all legally, technically within the bounds of our agreement, so I can't intervene without appearing weak. I know. You don't know. You can't possibly know what you've signed up for. Then tell me, I shoot back. Tell me exactly what I should expect. Give me every detail, every warning, every piece of advice you have. Use the weekend to prepare me instead of yelling at me for making the only choice that wouldn't have made me look like a coward. The elevator reaches the lobby. We stride out together, both of us furious, both of us scared, both of us trying not to show it. The car is waiting. We get in and Thomas wisely raises the privacy partition without being asked. You think I'm angry because you made a bad tactical decision, Dante says, his voice lower now, more controlled. That's not why I'm angry. Then why? Because you're going to suffer for this. Volkov will make sure of it. And I'll have to watch, unable to help, while you endure things no one should have to endure. And if something goes wrong, if he hurts you permanently despite his promises, I'll have to live with the knowledge that I brought you into this world and failed to protect you from it. The raw emotion in his voice stops my anger cold. I'm not your sister, I say gently. I'm not her. And I'm not doing this to hurt you or to prove something to anyone but myself. I'm doing it because you told me I was stronger than I knew, and I want to see if you're right. He looks at me for a long moment, something vulnerable flickering in his grey eyes before his usual control slams back into place. You're going to need to be stronger than either of us knows, he finally says, because starting Monday you're in hell, and I'm going to spend this weekend making sure you have the tools to survive it. The car pulls up in front of his building, not the office tower, but a residential building in Tribeca that probably houses apartments worth more than most people make in a lifetime. You're staying with me this weekend, he says, and it's not a request. Every moment until Monday morning we're training, preparing. If you're going into Volkov's world, you're going in as ready as I can make you. I should protest, should insist on going home, maintaining some boundary between my life and his. Instead, I nod. Okay. Because he's right. I've bet everything on my ability to survive something I don't understand. The least I can do is let him help me prepare. We take the elevator to the top floor, of course it's the top floor, and enter an apartment that's somehow both luxurious and lived in, expensive but comfortable, the home of someone who has money but doesn't need to constantly prove it. Guest room is down the hall, Dante says, shrugging out of his jacket. Get changed into something comfortable. We start in 10 minutes. Start what? Your education in survival? The weekend that follows is the most intense 48 hours of my life. Dante doesn't just tell me what to expect. He simulates it. He pushes me physically, making me do exercises that leave me gasping and shaking, testing my endurance and my ability to function when exhausted. He interrogates me, firing questions designed to confuse and intimidate, teaching me how to deflect without lying, how to resist psychological pressure. He brings in Sophia, who role-plays as various people I might encounter, each one more hostile and manipulative than the last. He brings in Alessandro, who teaches me basic self-defense, not enough to win a fight, but enough to buy time or create an opening to escape. By Sunday evening, I'm bruised, exhausted, and more terrified than I was before. But I'm also more prepared, more focused, more certain that I can do this. We're sitting in his living room, the city lights glittering through the massive windows, both of us worn out from 2 days of intensive training. "You're going to be okay," Dante says quietly. "You're stronger than you think." You keep saying that. Because it's true. He turns to look at me, and there's something in his expression that makes my breath catch. "When I met you at the Harringtons, I saw someone who'd been beaten down but not broken. Someone who'd learned to bend without snapping. That's rare, Lila. Most people either break or they become brittle. You found a third way. And what way is that? Resilience. True resilience. The ability to endure without losing yourself in the process." He reaches out, his hand cupping my face with surprising gentleness. "That's why I know you'll survive this week. Because you've already survived worse." His touch sends electricity through me, and I realize with sudden clarity that somewhere in this insane weekend, something has shifted between us. This isn't just employer and employee anymore. This is something deeper, more dangerous, more real. "Dante," I whisper. "I know." His thumb traces my cheekbone. "I know this is complicated. I know it's probably a mistake. But tomorrow morning, you're walking into danger, and I need you to know that you matter to me. Not as an asset, not as a bet, as a person. You matter to me too." The words feel inadequate, but they're all I have. He leans closer, and for a moment I think he's going to kiss me, and I'm not sure if I want him to or if I'm terrified that he might. Instead, he presses his forehead to mine, his eyes closed, his breath warm on my face. "Come back to me," he says. "Whatever Volkov throws at you, whatever you have to endure, come back to me. Promise me." "I promise." He holds me like that for a long moment, and I feel something settling between us, some unspoken agreement that whatever happens next, whatever this thing between us becomes, it's real. Then he pulls back, his control reasserting itself, the dangerous Mafia boss replacing the vulnerable man who just showed me his heart. "Get some sleep," he says. "Tomorrow changes everything." I go to the guest room, but sleep doesn't come easily. I lie in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, running through everything Dante taught me, everything I need to remember, everything that might keep me alive and whole through the coming week. My phone buzzes. A text from Dante, even though he's just down the hall. "You're going to be brilliant, and when you come back, when you prove everyone wrong, I'm going to make sure the whole world knows they underestimated you. DC." I read it 3 times, then typed back, "Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." His response, "I always see the truth, Lila, even when others can't. Sleep now. Tomorrow you show them all exactly what you're made of." I close my eyes, clutching my phone to my chest, and somehow, impossibly, I fall asleep. Monday morning comes too soon. I dress in comfortable clothes like Volkov instructed, jeans, a plain black t-shirt, boots. I look at myself in the mirror and barely recognize the woman staring back. This isn't Lila Moreau, the domestic servant. This isn't even Lila Moreau, the personal assistant. This is Lila Moreau, the warrior, the survivor, the woman who bet $5 million on her own strength. Dante is waiting in the living room, dressed for the office, but clearly not planning to leave until I do. He looks like he didn't sleep well either. "Ready?" he asks. "As I'll ever be." He crosses to me, pulling something from his pocket. It's a necklace, a simple silver chain with a small pendant shaped like a compass. "So you can always find your way back," he says, fastening it around my neck. His fingers linger on my skin for a moment. "No matter how lost you feel." I touch the pendant, feeling its weight settle against my chest. "Thank you." The panic button is always there if you need it. One press, and I'll come for you. Agreement be damned. Don't hesitate if you're in real danger. "I won't." The buzzer sounds. Thomas's voice comes through the intercom. "Mr. Volkov's driver is here, sir." This is it, the moment of no return. Dante pulls me into an embrace that's fierce and brief. 7 days, he murmurs into my hair. "You survive 7 days and you'll have proven something incredible." Not to me, I already believe in you, to yourself. 7 days, I repeat. He releases me and I grab my small bag. Just some clothes, toiletries, the few things I think I'll need. Then I walk to the door, my head held high, my spine straight, my heart hammering against my ribs. In the elevator, I check my reflection one last time. I look calm, determined, strong. I look like someone who can survive anything. I hope I'm right. The car waiting outside is black, expensive, with tinted windows that hide whatever waits inside. The driver, a massive man with cold eyes, opens the back door without a word. I take a breath, touch the compass pendant hanging around my neck, and step into the vehicle. The door closes behind me with a solid thunk that sounds like a prison cell locking. Marcus Volkov sits across from me, his cold smile already in place. "Welcome, little girl," he says. "Let's see exactly what you're made of." The car pulls away from the curb, away from Dante's building, away from everything safe and familiar. And I realize with crystal clarity that I've just walked into a cage with a predator who has 7 days to break me. 7 days to prove I'm as weak as he believes. 7 days for me to prove him wrong. The game has begun. And I have absolutely no idea if I'm going to survive it. But I'm going to try. Because somewhere behind me, in a Tribeca apartment, there's a man who believes I can. And for the first time in years, I believe it too.